Good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to the Saturday Tropical Outlook. It is the 10th of August from a rather soggy Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. It has been quite a shock to the system. In fact, seeing today's heavy rainfall, it was expected. A rather potent cold front has been moving northwards over the last 24 hours, eradicating temperatures around 34-35 Celsius. A couple of days ago, barely 20 Celsius for a maximum this afternoon, and it has been raining for the guts of 12 hours now, and we've seen upwards of 2 to 4 inches of rain fall within the greater Rio de Janeiro area. So the tropics are fairly active at the moment. We've seen the demise of post-tropical storm Debby, the record-breaking rain from Florida all the way up to the Montreal area of southern Quebec. And now we're watching what is likely to become Ernesto within the central tropical Atlantic. Now, the latest information from the National Hurricane Centre has the system over the central tropical Atlantic at 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. It will track west-northwest and make an approach at Puerto Rico, the Hispaniola area, as we move towards next weekend. And it looks as if it's going to make a turn to the north before reaching the lower 48, which would be good news, obviously, for the United States. But this system is likely to become a tropical storm and likely to become a hurricane after that as well. So the latest information from Debby is looking like this. We've seen, like I say, record-breaking rainfall. This was the scene from Annapolis in Maryland back last weekend, I think it was, or no, in fact, it was the 9th of August. So yesterday, this was the scene, some rather dramatic scenes indeed, of the downtown area essentially underwater. And this is not a local remote event. This has been the case. This was, by the way, a tweet by the Herald Diary back yesterday. This was not a localized event. This has been the case up and down the East Coast here. This is a tweet here by Bob Hansen, shared, showing that surprisingly that the Montreal all-time calendar day rainfall record, over 140 years of record, was just 94 millimeters or 3.70 inches. But that record is now history, topped by post-tropical storm Debby. So the system has dropped over 100 millimeters of rain within a 24-hour period, breaking the all-time Montreal record that was set back many years ago. So quite an interesting piece of information there shared by Bob Hansen. This is a tweet by AccuWeather showing Sarasota Airport receiving over 11 inches of rain back on Sunday, the wettest day on record since 1911. So, and some rain gauges within the Sarasota area recorded over 20 inches of rain within the space of a couple of days here. So very significant stuff in the wake of post-tropical storm Debby. Now, this is the latest IR imagery here from the GFS model showing what is likely to become Ernesto. You've got another wave of very significant convection coming off the West African jet. That is going to cross out over the Atlantic near Cabo Verde over the next couple of days here. We'll need to keep an eye on that. By the way, when we were flying down through the intertropical convergence zone back on Monday, it was rather bumpy. There was a couple of times the turbulence was, notable is probably the best way to put it. Nothing extreme, but nonetheless, there was a fair bit of bouncing around with cloud tops. We were flying at around 39,000 feet. And when you looked out the window, you could see the clouds above us. So, fairly high cloud tops within the intertropical convergence zone as we flew through that on our way down to Rio back at the start of the working week. And that obviously is expected when we fly back during the middle portion of next week, as well as we pass back through this belt of convection converging winds it'll be interesting to see how much turbulence we experience. But you can see this system, seen by the latest GFS operational, making its way towards the Lesser Antilles. Then, as it moves and makes an approach on the southern portions of Puerto Rico, it looks as if the model tries to develop an eye, and then it makes an approach on the eastern and southeastern side of Hispaniola. Exactly where it makes that approach will remain to be seen. Some of the finer details will be yet to iron out. This is only one GFS operational, many runs, and we'll need to keep a close eye on exactly where this system tracks into the eastern and northeastern side of the Caribbean here. But you can see that the system does, according to the latest GFS anyway, make a landfall somewhere within the southeastern corner of the Dominican Republic during the course of Thursday next week. So this is August the 15th. Now let's have a look and see what the model is indicating further down the road here. So if we look at the mean sea level pressure and precipitation, there's that system seen over the southeastern side of Hispaniola. Obviously very mountainous terrain here, so this could have detrimental influence on the structure of the circulation itself. But nonetheless, you notice here that it starts to make that turn, according to this latest GFS run anyway, just as it crosses over Hispaniola. There is a trough, which we'll look at in just a second, moving eastwards across the United States, and the model indicates that this system, or to be Ernesto, feels the effects of that trough as it exits North America. Notice here that it tracks well to the east of the United States, but it looks as if it's going to make an approach on the eastern and northeastern side of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland as a 978 millibar system here, likely becoming post-tropical at this stage, and then it catches a ride in the jet stream towards the UK, and it could actually be a bit of a windstorm for the UK towards the Thursday the 22nd of August. A long way out, obviously, but these are scenarios that need to be taken into consideration here. So let's have a look at the GFS ensemble here, and this will give us a slightly better handle on how things may pan out, because this is obviously multiple model runs merged into one, and this may give us a slightly better idea. So if we look at the individual here, you can see what takes place. Let's get back to a little bit near the current time frame. You notice here that by the time we reach tomorrow, there's that trough crossing over the Great Lakes here. We do have what will likely be Ernesto here running the southern flank of the main mid-Atlantic ridge. There's the trough then moving eastwards out over the western North Atlantic here, and there's that weakness. There is what opens the door to Ernesto, to be anyway, to take that turn up the eastern side of North America here, over the Canadian maritime region, and then catch a ride in the jet stream towards the British Isles here. So we'll need to keep a close eye on this as we move through the next few days here. So it certainly will be an interesting situation going forward here. And remember, we've got more waves coming off the African coast as well. Looks as if there's a reasonably low sheared environment as well. With regards to the Madden oscillation, it does look as if it's going to become much more potent and return back to the Indian Ocean, the maritime continent, as we move towards the middle and second half of this month. So while we see more robust convective waves moving off Africa, we've got the likely development of Ernesto over the next 7 days. We are likely to start to see the Atlantic basin quieten down towards the second half of August here, as the MJO becomes a lot less favourable over the Atlantic and much more favourable over the Indian Ocean, the maritime continent, Southeast Asia as well. So therefore, we're likely to see a lot more convection over this region. Let's have a quick look at that, and then we'll end today's video. Now, we'll try and do a live stream tomorrow afternoon, but it really does depend on the strength of the internet here in the hotel. So it may or may not work, and we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on that going forward. But if we can see what the 200 millibar level is indicating here, if I can find it, that is. Just bear with me a second, everybody. It would help if I get the right chart, actually. Just to show you here the large scale sinking that is seen by the GFS as we move towards the second half of this month here. So this is the CHI anomalies here, and you can see what I'm talking about here. Let's go back to slightly the previous run, because it's actually just currently updating as we speak. But you can see here as we play through this loop here, obviously the orangey colours represent sinkener, the greens represent risener, and as we move towards the second half of this month, look at the levels of risener. This is a reasonably robust phase 3-4 of the MJO here over the Indian Ocean. So widespread upward motion within this region, widespread sinking over the Americas and over the Atlantic. So I would expect to see a little bit of a downturn in activity over the Atlantic as we move towards the second half of August. And then as we move into the month of September, I would expect to see things liven back up once again as the MJO makes a rotation back into the Atlantic. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. And I'll see you all being well tomorrow with more. Bye for now.